Buenos días, o como acostumbramos a decir en el mundo blockchain o en el mundo Web3, GM, good morning, es lo que van a ver acá, eso significa GM. Se utiliza bastante para todo el tema de saludar, como GM, lo van a ver bastante en los anuncios, en todo, porque la forma cordial que nosotros damos la bienvenida es como esos memes que le llaman. Un par de recordatorios antes de comenzar. Primero, pues, ¿quién es Vitalik? Vitalik es uno de los fundadores de Ethereum. Él trabaja bastante en el ecosistema de Bitcoin y luego, pues, con un grupo de innovadores pensaron en desarrollar esta tecnología para que no solo guardara dinero y aplicaciones financieras, sino que se pudieran utilizar para desarrollar contratos inteligentes, que es como quien imagina, guardamos una base de datos en la nube y es descentralizada, así que se puede verificar en cualquier lado. Esto realmente ha permitido que se realicen y se desarrollen una infinidad de innovaciones tecnológicas fuera de lo que ya estamos acostumbrados con la parte financiera, como por ejemplo arte digital, votaciones electrónicas, ya lo mencionaba Lucy, trazabilidad. La creatividad de cualquiera de las cosas que a ustedes se les ocurra se puede desarrollar en blockchain porque al final es una tecnología y cómo la implementen depende de su creatividad. Hemos visto, por ejemplo, personas desarrollando aplicaciones de redes sociales descentralizadas, donde básicamente es como Twitter o Facebook, pero los datos ya no una compañía no es la dueña, sino que es un servidor descentralizado. Entonces, ustedes son los dueños de esta información. Entonces, imagínense que es como el paso de la Web 2 a la Web 3 y básicamente es de solo ver información online a que otras compañías sean dueños de la información, a ustedes ser dueños de su información. Y ya la pueden monetizar o pueden hacer lo que quieran. Al final, pues, ustedes depende cómo lo quieren implementar. Y pues, para eso, ¿qué mejor forma que escuchar a Vitalik? Hola, Vitalik. Hello. It's an honor to have you here.
Hola, buenos días. I'm great. How are you?
Good. Excited about this event. Excited to talk with you.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm excited to see everyone in Honduras and looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, and deciding the topic of this talk was a little complicated because we have a different kind of audience. We have new people, students from high school, from college. But we wanted to talk about some advanced topics because we also have some people with some experience on the Ethereum space. So we were wondering which topics might make sense for this audience. And you recently wrote a post about the ethos and reviving the cypherpunks ideals. And we thought this is perfect because this is a new audience. We can align to the new to this cypherpunk ideal that maybe has been lost or is recovering. So we are onboarding to the new part. So yeah, that's the topic that we want to discuss.
Yeah, I think I think it's definitely a very important topic, and I think it is definitely something that is easy to lose sight of when prices are going up and people are talking about tokens and there's a lot of distractions on crypto Twitter and all of those things. But I think the projects that last the longest in the crypto space are are often the ones that are the most principled. So I think if anyone here wants to build something that continues to last and continues to grow for the next 10 years or 30 years or longer, I think thinking about these things is super important and super valuable.
Let's hope everyone here focus on these ethos, not in the meme coins. Well, meme coins have their purpose, but don't need to working all day on that. So I have the first question is, what role do you envision Ethereum playing in the evolution towards a more decentralized and open internet?
Yeah, I think one of the big changes in thinking in the crypto space over the past 15 years and in Ethereum in particular is that we're starting to get a much bigger understanding of like the different pieces of what we might call, the kind of internet stack and, the stack of different tools that you need to work together as a community and in society at a large scale, right? Yeah. So the thing that, right, so a thing that we were talking about, right, is that we all of these other pieces of financial infrastructure that the Ethereum ecosystem has already been building for the last 5 or 10 years. But there's also all of these other pieces of infrastructure and software that really matter if we want to interact at a large scale as a community and as a society. And particularly protocols for identity and trust are a very big piece of this, right? Basically, yeah. So, one of the really big issues this year is that we've been seeing the rise. And with the rise of AI, there's these concerns that it's hard to distinguish who is a real person and who is a bot. And if you just have like 1 million accounts on a social media platform, like how do you even distinguish, is that actually 1 million people or is that one person? And there's a lot of these different groups building different proof of personhood protocols on top of Ethereum. So one part of this is trying to identify who even is a person. Another part is trying to identify, what kinds of events or what kinds of activities did this person participate in. So we have things like the proof of attendance protocol, POAP. Then we have attestations, protocols for reputation, like basically all of these other layers that allow us to better determine, like is the person or the thing that I am interacting with something that I can trust. And I think having this kind of infrastructure is very valuable. But at the same time, one of the big challenges is that, like, if these things are not done well, then someone is going to do them badly, right? And I think historically, yeah, like trust and and safety and trying to protect against bad actors, like these are things where like the desire to do them often leads to a lot of centralization, right? And like this is something that you can see everywhere, right? So one like very small example is if you look at email, right? Email is theoretically a decentralized protocol. Anyone can create not just an email account, but anyone can create an email server. And when you create an email server, then you can send a mail to any other email server, right? But in reality, if you're not like one of the 5 major providers, like maybe Google, maybe Apple, like maybe a few more, then automatically all of the mail coming from your server is not trusted by default, right? And it just goes directly into the spam filter. And so basically, because of this, in theory, you have a protocol that's decentralized, but in practice, you have this protocol that gets centralized around Google and maybe yeah, one or two more problem or who might is likely a spammer is like a super valuable thing, right? And if this is something that can be done in a way that is an open protocol, so it's something where anyone can come in, anyone can participate, and it does not privilege like one or a very small number of established actors, and it's done in a way that's global. So it doesn't discriminate between different countries, and it's something where people have the right and the practical ability to participate at every layer. Then you get something which is like like you get something which is much better than what you would get otherwise, which is basically something that ends up depending on and putting a large amount of power into the hands of one company, and often like not actually being very secure, right? So I think there's a number of these different spaces, right? And finance is one of them, and I think identity and reputation and trust is another one, where there are all of these difficult problems that we have to deal with at the same time, and there's a lot of important goals, right? Like we want protocols that are open, we want protocols that preserve privacy, we want protocols that actually provide us with the kind of security that we expect. And like these are all things that are difficult to get at the same time, right? But we also have these very powerful technologies, both blockchains, but also zero knowledge proofs that we can use to actually build these things. And like these are things that the Ethereum community is building already. And like these are things where a lot of them are being like currently built on top of the Ethereum blockchain, right? There's like all of these protocols that I mentioned, proof of humanity, proof of attendance, all of these things, like these are all Ethereum-based protocols, right? And the existing community is already a part of making these things happen. So this is like I just hope to see like many more people joining into this space and continuing to build more of these solutions to try to protect our privacy and our security and keep the internet open at the same time.
One of the main issues with the public blockchain is that like everything is public, so you need secret proofs and privacy to like empower people back to gain their digital identities and get back their data without leaking all this information that can be used by bad actors, which happens a lot. And continue talking about like this. Do you think in Latam there are opportunities that we should target specifically besides what you already mentioned? But I mean, a lot of people in Latam is focused on NFTs and DeFi. Like CK, I know it's new for everyone, but definitely something worth exploring. But do you have anything in mind that a Latin audience should be exploring or trying to tackle?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think DeFi is definitely important, right? Because for a lot of people, just like money is an important problem, and being able to save money, being able to transfer money, being able to earn it, use it, and like really be part of the international economy on the same terms as people in Europe and America and Singapore is like a super valuable feature of the crypto space. And I think projects that actually try to do a good job of making that a reality are, I think, amazing and really important. I think often one important thing to keep in mind in that space, right, is like often the simple things are the most important things, right? So often, like a lot of people really like making complicated derivative schemes and yield farming tokens on top of other yield farming tokens. And the thing that people actually need are just easy to use stable coins a lot of the time, right? And if you have an easy to use decentralized stablecoin, then that's like something that's already very valuable for a lot of people. And a lot of these already exist in the crypto space, right? But the problem is that a lot of the existing ones, they are very centralized, right? They depend on one exchange, they depend on one issuer, they depend on like one actor that you're interacting with the system through. And like there's a lot of intermediaries where if they want to cut you off, they can cut you off. And in particular, like we don't know if they're trustworthy, right? We saw what happened with FTX. FTX collapsed. Maybe something will happen to one of these stablecoin issuers as well, right? So making something that continues to be more decentralized, more open, more transparent is super valuable. I think the other thing is in this space of identity protocols and reputation protocols, the big challenge that I think we see, right, is like over the last 20 years, I've definitely been unfortunately noticing the economy becoming less global, right? Like there's a lot of services that, like if they launched 20 years ago, they would start off being available everywhere. But today, if they launch, like they would launch only in the US, right? And I think like a lot of the time, the reason why is basically this trust issue, right? And basically, I mean, like there are already, like strong centralized trust protocols in places like the U.S. and like that's where a lot of the money is, and the developers are lazy. They want to do the easy thing, and you start there, and a lot of the rest of the world, like you don't think about until you become much bigger. And this is something where I think it might actually be worth trying to like really figure out like what is one specific area where you can come up with a solution that like works to solve the problem, and you can actually get people to like just like get even like major like people and companies around the world to accept it, right? So like some kind of proof that you're talking to, like you're dealing with a person who has some kind of reputation, right? Like if that's a thing that can be built and can be made to be a global protocol, then I think it could really unlock a lot of people's access to products and services.
Agree, especially with the part about how simple stuff are important. For example, if I had to think like the number one need on Honduras is not some yield DeFi stuff. It's actually on and off ramps. Like you have to use Binance or international off ramps, and they charge you like $50 to $100 per turning into local currency. So that's like something really simple that we need. It's not CK, it's not DeFi. Um, and I want to close with your thoughts on two topics. The first one is like these events are really great for doing experiments, and we have one here. We are launching a QF round, and we are using SUPAS as the ticket. So we are going to use the proof of humanity, as you mentioned, using SUPAS for civil resistance. We're going to use Macy for anti-collusion. We're going to use ClearFund as a front end on the Optimism network. So maybe you have something to say about it, some thoughts, or what do you think about it? It's a cool experiment. Doesn't work.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's super amazing that you guys are doing that. I mean, I think like we talked about finance and money, we talked about identity, and I think governance is also one of those other really important layers of a decentralized internet stack, right? So like in that post on making Ethereum cypherpunk again, right? Like I laid out this whole stack, and like you have existing centralized solutions for money, like identity, trust, governance, usernames, account recovery, and having decentralized alternatives for all of those. And I think like one of the big things to keep in mind, right, is like sometimes you see these debates on the internet, like is online voting secure, or is online voting not secure? And the reality is like actually the world depends on online voting already, right? But it's not. I mean, government elections, it's votes on social media, right? Like that, like what gets like retweeted, what gets tweeted, all of these things they end up deciding a lot. And like a lot of governance, like happens informally, basically through all of these communication systems, right? Like I think communication is 80% of governance, and the actual formal like vote at the end is maybe 20% of it, right? But the better, like if you can make uh, tools for like large open communities to communicate better, and better and more secure tools for these communities to vote, then like that really increases the ability of these communities to work together, right? And like that really increases the amount of power that communities like that can have, and reduces the dependence that they end up needing to have on centralized leaders. So I think using those kinds of tools is amazing, right? And if you just are using like basic like blockchains accounts and Macy and a couple of other tools like that, then like you're basically already doing these things in a way that's more secure than like almost like everything in the world, right? And so like you're able to actually be pioneers in building and using this kind of technology, which I think is absolutely great. And I'm looking forward to that technology improving. And I'm also looking forward to like actually seeing like more and higher quality DAOs, right? Like actually like having communities that use partially on-chain, partially off-chain mechanisms to make decisions together and to coordinate is something that can be super important and can be super valuable. But what we've seen for the past 5 years, right, is that like very few people have been trying to be more creative with DAOs than just doing token voting, and like token voting is just so limited, right? And like it's amazing that other kinds of mechanisms are being tried. But then the other thing we need to answer is like basically this question of like a DAO for what, right? Because like we've seen a lot of people making investment DAOs. We've seen a lot of people making DAOs for just like buying NFTs, right? But like, can we come up with like at least a few other different kinds of behavior that really makes sense for a community to be self-organizing and doing together? And like where it really makes sense to use a DAO as a structure to do that, right? And if we can find like some specific cases and really do them well and make a case study that can be adopted, like not just across LATAM, but even across other parts of the world, I think like that's also something that could be really amazing.
I agree. And well, we are in a celebration not only about this event, but actually a few hours ago or less than that, the upgrade of Tenkun went live. So, woo! Yeah, I didn't want to end without asking you, like, if you have any thoughts about the impact it will have for the Ethereum ecosystem now that it's live.
Yeah, I mean, I think like scaling is one of the big things that we in Ethereum have been promising for like basically 10 years since the project started, right? Like if you look back to the presentations I made in 2014, 2015, like you can see slides, right, where I talk about things that Ethereum will do. One, proof of stake, two, scaling, and then three, security, four, privacy, right? And like 1.5 years ago, we saw, we did the merge, right? And so the move to proof of stake is finished, right? Which is, I think, super amazing. Then two, as of today, we have blobs and we have rollups that are on blobs. And, we actually have rollups that have reached what I call the stage one milestone, right? Like actually, like being primarily based on the rollup code for their security, right? So Arbitrum really deserves a shout out for that. And the and so like we've as an ecosystem have actually been delivering on our promises, right? And I think there definitely has been this a long period of time when people have been asking when proof of stake, when sharding, if there are these promises, when is it becoming real? And these promises now actually are becoming real, and I think it's accelerating, right? The amount of core dev talents that Ethereum has is like massively greater than it was, like even 3 years ago, right? And way greater than it was 6 years ago. And like with that greater amount of talent, like, we're able to move more quickly, right? And so I think, we're going to get Verkle trees, we're going to get account abstraction, we're going to get like all of these other things, I think, on a much faster schedule than we could get before. And but what that brings us to, right, is that like that does not mean Ethereum is finished, right? The way that I think about this is that the first decade of Ethereum was the decade of building Ethereum's technology. The second decade of Ethereum will be building Ethereum as a real application ecosystem that actually really serves tens of millions of people. And this is a challenge, right? It's making a good technological system is one kind of challenge, but making something that really works for users, where like everything that we can do in theory, we can actually do in practice, where using a wallet is actually a friendly experience, and everything actually works. There aren't any random glitches, people don't lose money to hacks, all of these things. There are real challenges here, right? But like these are challenges that we have to solve, and I think these challenges also create an opportunity for new people to really come into the ecosystem and start working on them, right? Like these are new spaces, right? And the reality is that if you have been in Ethereum for 10 years, you do not necessarily have an advantage, right? I think actually, the playing field is a lot more equal than people think, right? And like basically, the fact that we have these new waves of technology, including zk snarks in particular, to really solve the privacy issues, including things like account abstraction, including the layer two ecosystem, like that really creates an opportunity for this, like a new wave of people to come in and like even be able to compete with people who have been in this ecosystem for a decade. So I think there are big challenges, but the challenges are also an opportunity for each and every one of you who wants to come and build.
Vitalik, gracias.